The only way, David beats Goliath is by going at it. What are they gonna do? Like, ultimately what's actually gonna happen is you're not important enough for them to actually spend the money and resources on it. But you poking them will give you micro market share growth.
So just go hard on it?
What are they gonna do? Talk it through. What are they gonna do? Sure. Outmarket you? They're gonna outmarket you anyway.
So the person in particular who said he's gonna crush us, basically, he's already started 2 implant companies, sold the first one 100 million, sold the second one 300 million. Said, the next one we're gonna price lower than you, and I have the credibility, you don't. So you're basically...
The fact that he's even talking to you is already the most interesting thing to me. Like, the fact that he even acknowledges you, I would never spend a second on a company smaller than mine. That's the most interesting part of it all. It speaks to, in my opinion, irrational competitiveness or / emotion, which could end up being the best thing for you. If you're a thorn in that person's side, he may end up referencing you more, which is gonna only help you. I'm fascinated by that. If somebody you haven't entered in at all yet, and they've already had 2 exits of those size, and this is the 3rd one, price is only just one variable. For example, this is where TikTok really matters. Price is one thing. Relevance always beats price. People pay more for things all the time if they think it's better or cooler or represents them more. Price doesn't scare me. What scares me is if David doesn't understand where the arbitrage is. How much is the implant?
So they're gonna price at 100, we're thinking at 130.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very aggressive on TikTok, very.
Okay. My last question for you, Gary. Just as a CEO, you gotta keep your pulse on a lot of shit.
Yep.
If you have personal family crises going on, such as my daughter's medical condition, it's when the shit hits the fan, basically, you still got a business to run and bills to pay. How do you think straight when you can't?
You don't. You don't. And I think the biggest thing I can tell you, my friend, is, as somebody who has not had to live through a level of challenge of that level, I feel incredibly inappropriate to speak to it first. Second of all, what I've observed from others, the only thing I can tell you that feels incredibly natural to me is my #1 goal in life is not to live with regret. I don't think there's a single person on earth who chose their business over their family that feels great about it when they get older. I think every moment you spend on your family situation at the expense of your business is a good moment to be spent. Your business has a target on it. Every entrepreneur is looking at every localized business and trying to think about scale. And they're going to use modern marketing to create a moat, just like Zillow did, just like Amazon did, just like I did with Resy, the restaurant app, and OpenTable. It's all gonna be the same game. The internet is where the real world is. Everyone's like the metaverse and the VR and all this crazy stuff. We're living there now. Do you know how many hours are spent looking at this? Do you understand? We live there now. This has happened, whether you like it or not. You've decided to be an entrepreneur and a business owner or a senior executive. You decided. So that means you have to play on the field. In sports, it's obvious. When the greats, I will never forget, even though I hated him because I'm a Knicks fan, but Paul Pierce said something in some interview, and I loved it. He said something like, they asked him when he knew it was over, right? When he had to retire. And he said something like, it was interesting, it was just one random game and this scrub got by me, and I realized this guy would have never gotten by me ever before, and I can't believe he dominated me like that, and I knew it was over. And it stuck with me. In sports, it's obvious. In business, it's not. It's like whatever that gas is that is coming out of your car and then you just die in the garage because you didn't know. That thing, that's business. It's happening to you right now, but you just don't realize it. And that's because the technology lever, especially now, with what's going on with the blockchain, you have a blockchain and internet happening at the same time. And what makes me sad is you can harness it or you can put your head in the sand. It's just a very binary game. And I just don't know why you wouldn't. And so that's that. I didn't really get to the culture part as much as I want to, but I'm gonna sneak a little bit of it in. All of that is fine and dandy. If you land 3 awesome people to run your LinkedIn, or 1, it's all fine and dandy. If you don't know how to manage in 2021, you're gonna lose. The options are ridiculous. Every 17-year-old that I know, and I know a trillion of them, I have 10 million followers on TikTok, every one of them have no interest in going to college or working for anyone because they can make $100,000 a year on TikTok. This isn't about these Gen Zers and millennials being spoiled. This is called options. They're not lazy, they just don't want to work for you. Like, it's very important. This is probably more important than what I spent the most of my time on. If you don't realize that kindness and empathy and compassion and all those things your grandma tried to teach you are actually becoming the core things you're gonna need in your business to succeed. I love this new thing going on, the Great Resignation, right? And everyone's blaming the government, rightfully so. Like, if you pay people to stay home, they're gonna stay home. Like, we understand that game, but let there be no confusion. There's a much more dangerous thing going on in there, because that check is gonna stop. What's underneath there is options, right? And I see a lot of head shaking, and I'll tell you why. Many of you have been baffled by your kid or your kid's friend making real money on TikTok and they're 14, and you're like, what the hell is going on? This is happening. And so look, when I talk like this, I always laugh because I can always hear my dad or other people's voices in the crowd. Like, I'm very empathetic to somebody sitting, listening to me right now and saying, you know what? I'm retired. I get it, because it's changing so fast and hard. It's like, ugh, I've gone hard for 50 years. Do I really want a 30 years? Do I really? That's on you, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. And that's the point of this talk today, which is a lot's happening. And just to catch everybody up, the concept is, if you're trying to do local business, the Facebook groups are doing so well, especially in that 40 to 75-year-old demo, that if you create something a little more evergreen, literally back to your point, like back to the prior one, the Atlanta Small Business Facebook group, Buckhead Small Business Group, or like Denver Moms Club, and if you're the host, you're the host. And if you can build up that group, you can do localized marketing inside of it.
Cool. I also want to start looking at ways to probably run some targeted ads on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Going after specific companies that are the right size for what I want.
Yep.
Because what I really need is, I need a practice where it's one guy in charge, and he may have some junior partners, or it may be at the most maybe 3 partners. Because when we get much bigger than that, it's hard to get the buy-in from everybody.
Makes a ton of sense based on what you're doing.
So, for me to do that, do I actually target the companies, or do I go after just this size of institution?
It depends on what LinkedIn's gonna, sometimes when it's too small, the targeting capabilities are not there.
Okay.
So you have to pay a little more for it to be a little more broad, but still get what you're looking for.
Okay. Do I run static ads or videos or?
Both.
Okay.
The number one thing with social media ads that everybody misunderstands is it's the creative, not the media.
Okay. So try everything.
Because it's the only way you're gonna get your math right. Even when something's working, you gotta do more, and most people only run 1 or 2 or 3 different variations of creative and call it a day and decide if a platform works when you're supposed to do hundreds of variations. Which is why I want everybody to do, for example, I would love for you to start a show to answer questions for those brokers, so that you can then chop up the show and run them as ads.
Okay.
So like, it's even another move above that, which is like, how are you gonna keep creating so much ads? Well, what if you actually had a Q&A show, which is really in essence answering, that's the whole point of why Q&A works. Ask Garyvee was so brilliant because it's no different than Google ads. Google ads work because it's intent-based marketing. People are searching something they want to answer. My Q&A show works because it's the temperament, Tea with Garyvee, it works because that's the current temperament of what people want to know. One person usually represents 10,000 people's question.